Hey, what's going on YouTube? Heir of Carthage here. I finally got Napoleon to work. I still dropped one game out of 5. I don't know what the crap's up with Napoleon. I swear it's pretty glitched out in multiplayer. These weren't as good as the matches I had the other day, but when I turned off some of the advanced graphics options, it definitely seemed to stop the crashing, so I guess there's some glitches with the hardware I have, since the hardware I have is probably newer than Napoleon itself. I'm playing as Sweden. This is the Grassy Flats. It was a match set up by the host player, which is on the other side. He was a fan of mine, apparently, because he was pretty happy to see me in the game. So I was happy to play a match against him. Hopefully you'll end up enjoying it. I'll wait till I get my army formed up, and then I'll show you what I got. It'll be easier to see anyway. I am playing as Sweden. I rarely play as Sweden on this game, mainly because Sweden doesn't have any 100 range lights. All they have is the 125 range lights. I mean, you can still win with them, but it definitely creates some issues because the 100 range lights definitely reign supreme on this particular game, especially in the Grassy Flatlands. But the Grassy Flatlands in general is kind of a weird map. Not only does it not have any terrain, and that's kind of boring, they've actually, seems like heavily nerfed the kill rates of rifles on this map. So 125 range rifles should own on this map, but they don't. And so it screws up the whole mechanic of the map to me. I mean, 125 range rifles ought to own at a distance in this game, just like they did in Empire. It's just that normally if you're playing on terrain maps, the 125 range won't always come into play. So that's why I don't understand what they did to 125 range rifles in this game. I kind of think CA blew it, in my opinion. They should have made them just as good as they were in Empire. Just that whenever you play on the terrain maps, it blocks the 125 range. It's not really easy to get shots. That way people can't spam them. But on the Grassy Flatlands, range should be supreme, but it's not. The kill rates of all the light infantry are very much nerfed on the Grassy Flatlands. I'm not sure why that is, but that's why you'll see people spamming line infantry sometimes. So I've got 3 of these Jaegers, and then I've got 6 line infantry, just standard line, and then I've got 2 lifeguard afoot. This guy's pretty cool. Sweden's got some cool looking troops. Let's see, it's another line infantry. Where's my lifeguard afoot? Somewhere out here on the flank. Militia. Yeah, here it is. So here's my lifeguard afoot right there. And then I've got 2 lifeguard cav. I've got, I think 2 hussars. No, 3 hussars. Yeah, 2 lifeguard cav, or 1 lifeguard cav, 3 hussars, and 2 mounted Jaegers. So I've got quite a bit of cavalry, which is not a bad idea. Sweden, these mounted Jaegers are only 550, so they're pretty darn cheap. Now, they're not super effective, but they can get some shots off and cause some damage, be good for harassing troops. Really, morale is all you need sometimes. My general is actually the most expensive general. It's this Karl the... what is that? Karl the 14th? Karl Johan. So, yeah, he's the best general that Sweden has to offer. I know nothing about him historically. I guess if someone Swedish is watching and you want to fill us in, then by all means. But he is the best general for Sweden. And the reason I've done that is because I want the morale of my men to be stellar. My opponent, I actually played a previous match against him where I used one of the best generals and he did not, and his men's morale faltered very quickly. So he's brought Gerhard von Blücher, or whatever here, for Prussia. And he's got a line of musketeers with no elite units that I'm aware of, and I want to say he's got about 5 or 6 musketeers. And he's got a whole bunch of Silesian Schutzen. Now, stats-wise, a lot of people like to bring these, but I'm telling you, 125 range skirmishers in this game are just dog crap. They just don't get the kills they should. So look, he got first volleys while my guys are putting stakes down. I only killed 5 men. I mean, it's really not doing anything. And then when I put the stakes down, it'll give the ridiculous cover. Which is the whole reason why I did it, because I noticed that he had better skirmishers than me. But the kill rates have been heavily nerfed. That would have been at least 15 kills if I'd been playing Empire Total War. Right here, look, I mean, he's got all these Silesian Schutzen, but they're not going to even be able to kill this unit of militia before I get in with them, because their kill rates are just so nerfed. Everything's nerfed at a range, because check it out, there goes his line infantry. Both units of line infantry open up, still haven't routed the militia. So you can see that the distance kill rates are nerfed for some reason on the Grassy Flatlands map. I'm not sure why. This is a meat shield tactic I'm using here, and it's mainly to get this lifeguard afoot into place. My cav came out here real quick and mopped up the Prussian hussars. He only had 1 unit of hussars holding this flank, which was a mistake. He has his cav massed on my other flank. But since he's not using it to attack, he ended up losing his cav. So now his Silesian Schutzen and other units are up close with my own, and I'll be doing just fine. Plus my cav is going to come assist. So I've got my Hussars running in on his flank, and I do believe my opponent sees this one coming. Nope, he does not. So I get a full-on Hussar charge. He tries to form a square, but it was just too late. So his guys do, they don't die instantly, and I've got my mounted Jaegers going after his general. So there he goes, my mounted Jaegers. They're not very good in melee, so I'm just going to try and keep them moving, try to kill his general. His general is one of the expensive ones, so if I kill him, it'll have a huge morale effect. And then also I'm going to hit these howitzers. It'll take them out of fire mode. And by the time his guys get back from being attacked, my lifeguard of foot is in place, and these guys are going to start wrecking the Prussian infantry. Now my opponent starts to charge in his cav over here. My attention was elsewhere, though my mounted Jaegers should get shots. They do. Killed a bunch of his lancers, but they'll trash my unit. These cuirassiers catch my hussars on the hoof. Right here, I do catch these. I saw this charge coming finally, and I do form a square at the last second and catch his cuirassier against a lifeguard of foot, no doubt. So those cuirassiers are going to pay the price. And then I'm going to reinforce with my lifeguards of horse. They're pulling over there right now. So even though this fight started off poorly for me, I'm going to reallocate my men and get his guys back. So his cuirassiers are going to hang in this fight a little while longer, but you can see that his flank over here is getting wrapped up hard by my elite unit, which is my lifeguard of foot. It's putting all the pressure out here. He hasn't even gotten a shot off at it yet because his guys have been focusing on my standard line infantry. When a player has artillery, they have to protect it, and so if you don't use it extremely wisely, I'm not trying to say that my opponent didn't, he tried here, but I caught him off guard with that attack. Artillery kind of keeps you stuck to a certain area where you can't fall back, and you can see me just putting a lot of pressure on his men. So I've moved up my sharpshooters as well, or my Jaegers. So they're firing on these units in the center. In fact, I think I clicked an attack order with these guys and then forgot to unclick it. My micro was pretty poor in this battle. I'm still trying to get used to Napoleon Total War again, so I accidentally moved these guys forward and get them shot to death, which was kind of stupid. But like I said, I'm going to be wrapping up his flank pretty hard as soon as my micro catches up. I was trying to win the cav fight, and you can see I'm clicking attack orders and outflanking maneuvers on his other flank now, and so I believe now I'm coming back to this flank, which I am. You can see my movement orders there. So you can see that I started off by pushing one flank, gaining an advantage, forced my opponent into a bad attack on the other, and now I'm going to have the advantage there.
Our men are running, sir.
So my opponent plays pretty well, and I do take heavy losses up the center due to my poor management of my troops and my opponent's superior firepower in the center, but I'm using my power on the flank, which is my lifeguard of foot, and they're going to help wreck these kind of units. So my lifeguards of horse get into it with these Brandenburg Uhlans, but Uhlans actually do pretty well, at least off the charge, versus lifeguard units. So I'm going to charge my my lifeguard of foot in to support my lifeguard of horse, and we should start to be able to turn the tide against these lancers. So you can see that indeed the lancers are starting to get pushed out. My attack over here is underway now. You can see that I'm actually attacking his light infantry. This keeps me pretty much out of range of the rest of his line infantry support. And I believe we're about to rout these Uhlans. They're just about gone, so I'm going to reform my my lifeguard of foot to start hitting this flank. Now my opponent's in some pretty bad shape. And I'm going to bring my general over to help rally my men in this vicinity. So Johann is going to come over here and start giving some morale boosting. You can see I'm continuing to push the outflanking maneuvers, and now I'm going to push my line infantry in the center to keep holding him down in the center. So my opponent is now completely outflanked. So working the flanks, or at least gaining the advantage on one flank, is usually a good way to go as far as grassy flatlands. I'm not sure why my guys started scooting up here. I never did figure that out. It must have been because I clicked an attack order or something. So I had to reposition them. I've got a few lifeguards of horse left, not many, but I'm going to try and run them around. Heavy cav is pretty darn slow, but these guys do have excellent morale and sustained killing power in melee if you can get them in. So heavy cav's not worthless. They're just harder to use. Here's my general supporting my lifeguard of foot on this flank. These lifeguard of foot are going to really start whacking these musketeers. I don't know why my guys keep reforming weird. So here's my lifeguard of horse into the enemy general. You better believe they're going to kill him, and they did. So now that the enemy general is dead, his morale is definitely going to start to pay the price. I was losing in a few spots, but my lifeguard of foot out here is still completely untouched. So they're going to continue owning. I've got men left in the center, and then my lifeguard, a horse, what's left of him at least, is going to come deal the final morale blow and knock out the Prussian troops here in the center. So once they lose their general, all it takes is a few little morale blows. My general forced a square right here as well. And anyway, I guess Johann doesn't mind fighting. He barely lived. He was pretty valiant. So I'm not sure exactly which one he is. It's one of those there. Anyway, good game to my opponent. Thanks for that game. I do have one more to show you. It's on a terrain map. You can see that my lifeguard afoot on my right flank did the most killing, and then followed not too far behind by my other lifeguard afoot. So my plan was to have that firepower on the flanks. Alright, I was getting pretty excited because I actually had a battle. It's the only one that crashed, unfortunately. Like it said, I dropped from the game, which I'm not sure if my opponent quit or what, because I was finally beating him. It was one of those guys that was playing on Waterloo and camping with artillery in France and like all the fancy units. So I used Spain, pulled a guerrilla attack on him, and actually ousted him off the hill, and he counterattacked and nearly killed me because, of course, Spain's no good. But then I ended up beating him again. And I was going to show you that one because it was going to be hilarious, you watching me oust this crazy hill camper who had a lot better army than me. But I ended up, it said I dropped from the game. I'm assuming that he was quitting or something, though. I don't know how it works on Napoleon. Anyway, I am playing as France, and I have brought Marshal Soult as my general. I wanted a little bit of morale boosting, but I didn't want to spend like Napoleon-type money because France has pretty solid morale anyway. I'm playing against Prussia. Once again, so I guess both my matches were against Prussia. It was fun playing as Sweden, though. I don't play as the minor nations. Well, I actually do play as the minor nations a lot, which usually results in me getting destroyed. I've got 2 units of Old Guard. I've got 1 unit of Young Guard. I want to say I have a couple of Polish Legion, 4 Fusiliers, and then I've got 2 Voltigeurs for my light infantry force. And then my cav is comprised of 2 Chasseurs Cheval, and then I have a Chevaux Léger Lancer, and then I have a Polish Guard Lancer. Actually, I think I have 2 Chevaux Léger Lancers. So, I wish I could pronounce French. I cannot. So, my opponent, playing as Prussia, you can see he's actually upgraded a lot of his troops. He's, I guess, expecting a drawn-out fight. He has all musketeers here, like, I'm thinking 7 or 8 of them. And then he's got some Prussian Fusiliers, which are the best light infantry in the game, pretty much. So he's got at least 3 of them that I can see. Yeah, maybe 4. Yeah, he brought 4 of them. He really shouldn't have. Like I said, these terrain maps, the reason terrain maps are fun is because they limit that light infantry, and it makes it hard for an opponent to position artillery on maps like this, so it creates a quicker type of gameplay, and I really enjoy that. So I'm cav rushing the top, my opponent's cav rushing. His have more upgrades, but they're cheaper units, and his general is also down here in the mix. He's also got this unit of horse artillery. Horse artillery was just a poor choice for this map. Never should have chosen it. So my Lancers are going to get the downhill charge. My Chasseurs Cheval, I'm going to actually take them for a disruption mission because I noticed it's artillery and all these light infantry, so I'm going to actually hit them with my Chasseurs. So my Polish Guard Lancers are now in this fight too. They're going to be devastating. Check out my Chasseurs Cheval. They're going to disrupt all of his light infantry and destroy his artillery, all in one massive early blow. And this is going to be very, very devastating for my opponent. He was rushing towards the top, but whenever he saw my cav gaining that advantage as far as elevation, he should have backed off and positioned his men to start firing. He does have artillery, and he could have pulled back and tried to use it. But instead, he pushed the attack, and now my guys are destroying his in melee. And I've got Marshal Soult here to inspire my men. So you can see my men being inspired here and rallied. So the cav fight's going to turn in my favor. His general is actually in the cav fight. You'll notice that I kept my general out of the cav fight. Very important difference. Losing your general, especially when you have a historic general, is a massive blow to morale. And check it out here. His Lancers are going to run into the back of my Chasseurs Cheval and try and knock them out. But I've already done like a whole lot of damage to his light infantry, and I've killed his artillery. So, or at least basically killed it. I go ahead and chase their general because I was trying to kill him, and sure enough, I got him right before he got away. So I'm going to run away what's left of my cav, which is very little, but this was definitely a cav victory for me in the end. My opponent lost way more troops than I did. I now have the hill And then I also have a morale advantage because I still have my general and my opponent has lost his historic general. So now my opponent is at a massive disadvantage. So on these terrain maps, you need to come with a plan, and your army needs to be built for the terrain. So my army was built for the terrain. My opponent's was not built for the terrain. He has too many light infantry. He had the artillery, which if you're going to bring artillery on this type of map, it has to be a howitzer. You're just not going to do any good with round shot on this map. So my army was built for the terrain in other ways. I've got these. I've got Polish Legion, which are better at melee. I've got 2 Old Guard and a Young Guard, which are all good at melee. So my army was ready for melee in case it came down to that. And I've brought only a couple of light infantry, which are more of a meat shield than anything else. That's why I brought the Voltigeur. They're going to make a fine meat shield. I've also got a unit of militia for a meat shield. So I've got meat shields for making my opponent, waste his first shots. And at this point, my opponent's finally doing what he should have done in the beginning, which was retreat whenever he saw me gaining that terrain advantage. But he's going to go ahead and retreat to these woods. The only problem with retreating to these woods is it still puts you at a massive terrain disadvantage. There's all these like little ridges and stuff, and uphills and things blocking your shots. Like at this point, my opponent's really just screwed. I can't say I blame him for pulling back though, and I'm not going to trash talk him for it because, to be honest, to march right up this choke point, and let me shoot him to death wouldn't have been any good either. So I definitely understand what he's doing and don't fault him for it. Now, of course, all my men are going to be very tired for the duration of this battle. I could stop and rest them, but I don't want my opponent to think I'm just going to camp up on this hill, so I'm going to go ahead and keep moving because I don't want to just sit up here and camp. I play way too many battles in these games that are campy, so I just don't feel like that. Why does it always have to be a freaking sandstorm where you can't see anything? Anyway, I'm going to fast forward. You can see me. I'm going to move my Voltigeur first down through the choke point because if anybody takes a bunch of shots, I want it to be them. His light infantry is going to be less than effective just because, I mean, check out the terrain. You're not going to get shots on this terrain. All the more reason why I said you shouldn't bring more than a couple unless you have some kind of special plan for how you're going to use them, just because they're going to end up choking you up. The remainder of my cav is going to swing out wide to my right just to get on his flank, try and cause some disruption. You can see the results of my initial cav attack right here. A bunch of his dead men and my cav and his artillery pieces. It's too bad I can't turn around and use those on him. That'd be kind of a cool feature. And then here's the results of the initial cav scrum too. You can see all the dead Prussian and French troops there. Pretty dang sweet. It was a good opening skirmish. I'm going to take my Old Guard down my left flank. These guys are worn out. But, they're Old Guard. They'll be in better shape than his troops, because his troops will also be tired and coming uphill. My Old Guard have a scare effect, so Old Guards scare nearby enemies, and they're pretty darn tough against cav, too. And my opponent only has 1 unit of Lancers left, so I'm not worried about these guys being singled out by cav and infantry. So there we go, and here's old Marshal Soult scooting up, going to support their army. I thought about bringing Napoleon, but I wanted to be able to have a few more troops, and you can get like a whole extra unit of line infantry, which, don't get me wrong, bringing the expensive general can very well be worth it. Like, that last battle I played as Sweden, you saw how my men's morale was nigh unbreakable, even though I was pushing the attack. So my men had excellent morale, and it ended up giving me a pretty sweet advantage. Okay, you can see all my guys just firing into the dirt. If mine are firing into the dirt, his are going to be firing into the dirt. I could have redirected him, but I don't really care, because by the time his guys crest this hill, my guys will be reloaded. So it's not like Empire Total War, or else I would have been a little more careful with that. But finally his guys are going to start cresting this hill, or at least get close. But even still, he's probably not going to have any shots. We'll see. They might get shots right here. Yeah, I think these guys are actually getting shots off. But they're not going to be getting a lot of them. So I'm going to let this skirmish go on for a couple of minutes here, just see if we can waste some ammo. Let his guys get settled in so that I can push an attack. You can see I'm moving up these this Young Guard and ooh, do I have 2 Young Guard? I thought I just had 1. Yeah, Young Guard and a Fusilier. I'm going to charge my opponent on this flank. He gets a last second square. I don't know if it gives him, it does give him the square bonus. It's supposed to not give them a bonus if they form it at the last second, but it does. So I'm going to try and run my cav through. They're not wanting to run. He formed another square right here too, but these squares are just going to work to my advantage. Even if he kills my cav, you can see his morale is pretty poor, and the squares are going to give me a chance to move up my flanking forces right here. So you are going to see me running my cav through. I'm just going to make a push for his center and try and hit his units in the center as well. You can see his Prussian Fusilier are not causing a whole heck of a lot of damage because their the terrain position's very poor. Alright, so here comes my cav. It's caused more squares. Gonna cause another square. And you can see over here on the flank, his guys are still in square as my my young guard moves into position. This is going to be very advantageous for my young guard. Of course, having a guard unit with a chance to catch people in square definitely means the other units are dead. So there's my young guard opening up. They're going to easily start mopping the floor with these musketeers. They're going to reload very quickly. Over on this other flank, he's tried engaging my old guard, and his guys actually had like a strange terrain position where they were actually killing my old guard. So I'm going to pull back, and here in just a second I'm going to spread out my young guard thinner. If I keep pulling these guys further away from their army, their morale will fall to even easier. So this is kind of a maneuver here to pull his guys further away and give my old guard better position to fire from. I am going to click in order for them to spread out a little more here too, because I've been playing Empire Total War and I keep forgetting there's not fire at rank, which is dumb-tarded. Napoleon Total War definitely should have had fire by rank. I think the fire mechanics on this game should have been just a smidge slower and have fire by rank, and it would have made this whole game a whole lot cooler. Now don't get me wrong, this game was cool, but it would have been a whole lot cooler. And the cav fight should have been a little longer like in Empire. Maybe not quite as long as Empire, but a little longer I think would have been cool. So my old guard would have absolutely thrashed these guys, and he's going to run away. He is going to send in this Lancer charge, which was completely futile. Maybe he's just trying to cover his retreat. If that's the case, then it'll work. But it's not going to do a whole lot. Like, he'll get a fair few kills on the charge, but that'll be it. My guys will just start mopping the floor with him after a second. His Lancers just don't have the sustained melee attack to take on Old Guard. You can see I've broken my opponent in the center, actually with a militia charge. If that gives you any idea how bad his morale was. So I broke some of his musketeers with a militia melee charge. Who would have known militia could be effective down the center? And I'm wrapping up his flank over here. His guys are starting to rout. Good old militia, baby. These guys are worth their weight in gold sometimes. What the heck? My militia just stabbed that one Prussian. Guess he didn't want him to get away. Alright, so my old guard are going to move up. He's repositioning these guys to come help his flank, but it's too late. His center's been destroyed. He sent too many units out. He should have just left like one unit to try and deal with my old guard. But my morale was just going to be too good. My opponent lost his general way too early in the battle. And the only way you can start to regain the advantage is by fire and retreat type tactics where you pick apart the enemy and eventually their morale will get poor as well. That's about the only thing you can do. I'm going to turn these Fusilier of the line into his reinforcing troops here and let the fight begin. My old guard are coming up behind them. And then I believe I bring a Polish Legion and a couple of other units over here or something. I'll bring him some help here in a minute. I got the militia coming to help. His guys are going to charge into combat, but their morale's not going to hold. So here's the last charge of the Prussians. All of our guys are worn out on his side and mine. Just absolutely exhausted, basically. So there actually weren't a whole lot of kills. That was more of a morale win for me. By killing his general early, his guys routed with a lot of men left. Look, the units that got the most kills in this entire match was my militia with 184 kills. Talk about a beastly militia. Anyway, I guess these guys are proud to be Patchies. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed these battles, YouTube. Heir of Carthage signing off for now, and I will catch you soon with some more.